Hey guys, All in Crypto here, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another YouTube video. I hope you've all had a terrific Thursday so far, and of course a great week on the run up to Christmas. Christmas is 2 days away, so I hope you guys are all prepared for that. Those of you that celebrate it, those of you that don't, it's a great opportunity to spend time with friends and family if that's what your country is allowing you to do anyway. So in this video, we're going to get into our daily cryptocurrency market update, where we not only tackle the realms of crypto, but we look at the external world around us. And that's what we're going to do in this video. We're going to skim and go over some TA on Bitcoin, Ethereum, and of course Cardano. Lots of interesting things going out. We can see the market is in red. It's kind of a little bit of a psychological thing. When people come on to CoinMarketCap or their broker account or whatever, and they see red, they kind of associate this with something bad happening. But let me just assure you guys that this is just how markets work. Had a green day yesterday, a red day today. Certainly if you look at the charts, you can see even on the days where, or the periods where we're uptrending, you know, it's very much green, red, green, red, green, red. And this is just how markets work, ladies and gentlemen, and how price is correlated. So we're going to get into Bitcoin, of course, Ethereum, and Cardano. President Trump talking about crypto again. Now, I know he's not a fan of it. I think if he was still president, he would have tackled crypto in a far harsher manner than the current president that we actually have. Now, I'm not a huge fan of either of them. I don't really get involved with politics, and that's not my game. Ultimately, I think that governments around the world have failed their citizens catastrophically, time and time again. But that is for another video, perhaps on another channel. So we're going to get into what Trump had to say. Is this why we're seeing a bit of a downturn in Bitcoin? Now, I would suggest, or not just Bitcoin, the cryptocurrency market, I would suggest that it's probably not. I think markets as a whole are still kind of shaky. We had Biden talk about how supply chains are still really affected, but it's something that we're going to get over, and why this is causing a huge rise in price. Now, supply chains undoubtedly have a lot to do with why price is rising. Of course, if there's an overwhelming demand and not enough supply, the price will adjust accordingly. But one reason that prices are where they are today, ladies and gentlemen, let's not forget this, is because the Federal Reserve and other central banks around the world have inflated their fiat systems and caused everything to have to adjust in accordance. So we're going to get into that as well. We're also going to look at our traditional stock indicators like the FTSE, the S&P. We've not got oil up here, and of course we'll skim past the dollar. Dollar seeing a little bit of a rest after a bit of strength on the back end of potential interest rate hikes and the Fed looking to taper off bond buybacks and kind of rein in inflation. We're going to talk about this. Now, this worries me slightly. This is the US household currently have higher than average equity exposure, red line, and lower than average real estate exposure, blue line, as percentages of their assets than their 70-year respective historic average. So when we see more people sort of in the equity space, which is really the stock market and so on and so forth, this is not necessarily a good signal. Now, I believe that the stock market is undeniably overvalued and artificially propped up. If you look at, and we'll do a longer video on this at some point down the road, the earnings and what some of these stocks actually hold in comparison with what they're worth, it's magnitudes higher. And this is really, it's almost artificial, but that's for another video. But why this concerns me is because they can't have everybody getting rich. And typically when everybody is doing something like the dot-com boom, like the housing market, when everyone was taking out mortgages in 2008, you know, typically what will happen is you'll get a alleviation of that. So they can't have everybody getting rich. And when everybody's aping into something and going in one direction, you want to go the other way. It's kind of like you don't want to follow the sheep that are really just following the direction of the herd. So we'll get into that. Also, we're going to talk about the fact that Bitcoin, is this halvening cycle over? I found this very interesting. I found this on Lynn Alden's Twitter as well. Lynn Alden is absolutely fantastic for the financial world. Not just the financial world, she's a fantastic commentator on multiple different subjects. And this really talks about the fact that is the halvening, the 4-year cycle theory, essentially, which we've looked at in great detail. We've got our own sort of chart here now over, and are we going to follow more of a kind of growth path where we see not such long drawn out bear markets waiting for the halvening and then these kind of brief rash bull markets. So we've got a lot to get through. Let's start with Trump's statements. Then we're going to get into these individual cryptos on a TA side of things. Look at some bullish divergence in association with a illiquid supply and so on and so forth. So let's play this.
First Lady. They really
What do you
love
think
it.
about crypto? Because, you know, New York and Miami is really getting cryptocurrency into their financial system.
Well, I never loved it because I like to have the dollar. I think the currency should be the dollar. So I was never a big fan, but it's building up bigger and bigger, and nobody's doing anything about it. And I know it so well. Look, I want a currency called the dollar. I don't want to have all these others, and that could be an explosion someday, like the likes of which we've never seen. It'll make the big tech explosion look like baby stuff. I think it's a very dangerous thing.
Let me
Do you know something? We are actually in the process, and you know, you got to forgive me, I'm dyslexic and not maybe as efficient a writer as I thought I was. I am actually writing a book on the fact that cryptocurrencies potentially could be the catalyst for the next financial crisis. But the good news with that is they still have to pump it up to a point where it becomes order of magnitudes bigger than the dot-com boom. Dot-com boom was $5.5 trillion in terms of market cap, guys, as a whole, at its height back in the 1990s, guys. We're at $2.3 trillion. Crypto has a long way to go. You guys know that I am nothing but bullish. I think this technology is going to impact the world in a massive way. We've done lots of analysis on that, looking at other technologies, the kind of revolution that they were, and comparing them with our space. We've even looked at charts that look similar. Let's get into Bitcoin. Well, this is going to confuse some of you. Okay, we'll just use this chart for the sake of it, but ignore all the lines everywhere, guys. Bitcoin broke out of this channel in much the same way that we did over here. Now, we saw an uptick. We saw a clear break from the channel. Very, very common, and we have said this, that you actually come back and you come back and find support. Now, whether that be off your EMA, which we've currently found, or whether that be off the actual descending resistance now flipped to support, we will see. There's a number of strategies and scenarios that I'm looking at for Bitcoin. I think we're in a macro continuation pattern that looks like this kind of rising wedge. Well, not rising wedge, I should say, rising sort of triangle, ascending triangle. There is still the room for us drizzling out to this lower kind of support band that we've held previously. But ultimately, you know, I think Bitcoin's going to do very, very well. I think this is somewhat, certainly the immediate uptick that we've seen correlated with the fact that the dollar has been somewhat slumpy, and is seeing, it's holding support actually quite nicely. But at the same time, you know, you could be setting up a bit of a bull flag here. I think the dollar is going to gain quite a lot of strength against emerging markets, other currencies, and that will see strength in the dollar ultimately. And how this plays out for Bitcoin, of course, very, very correlated. The dollar and Bitcoin are undeniably correlated. And essentially, when you see dollar strength, you see Bitcoin weakness, and vice versa. Or when you see, it's really the dollar dictates which way Bitcoin moves, not the other way around. Kind of like Bitcoin dictating the altcoin market. So I'm not too worried about this at all. This kind of red slumpy day, it's just part of how markets work. Remember, things are typically quite low volume at the moment. It's the end of the year. People will be somewhat taking profits. On top of that, you know, you've got to remember people are busy this time of year. So markets are going to get kind of a little bit wobbly. But ultimately, I think the direction Bitcoin is going is up. We've showed you lots of on-chain data. Here is another one from Will Clement. Fantastic technical analyzer, on-chain data-ist. I don't know if that's the right word to call it, but that's what I'm going to call it. Would be pretty funny to me if this bullish divergence plays out like the last two times. Just watching price action to confirm that it plays out. Patience is key, and he's correct. Within investing as a whole, one of the keys is time. You know, time is very much on your side in the crypto space. I hate to say that, as another very popular YouTube figure says that, but it is very much on your time. You know, it's very much on your side. Sorry. And the key to investing is to invest over time successfully, and that's what Bitcoin is. And I think there's a chart here to show you all the times, the years, and the Bitcoin price action association. And over time, it's been a fantastic, not only hedge against inflation, but investment. And that's a tried and proven method. So the bullish divergence that you're talking about, the fact that a liquid supply of Bitcoin is going up. So this is Bitcoin off of exchanges. And you see the price going down whilst the liquid supply is going up. So people are they're correlated massively, because if people are selling, typically they're selling on exchanges, but people are buying in, and we see big whales buying in and purchasing this, which is why I'm so bullish on Bitcoin, because we see this time and time again. Ultimately, think you're going to see continuation off the back end of this. Let's get into Ethereum. We'll probably leave that off for the time being. Interest in Ethereum, because it's kind of grinding up and putting in higher higher lows. But you've got so much The problem with where we've just come from with many of these cryptos is we've formed so many resistance levels. You can see that there's key resistance and support levels all the way through here. But ultimately, if Bitcoin goes up, Ethereum will follow. And let's cover Cardano just to finish, because Cardano is an interesting one. We do keep you up to date, by the way, guys. You should really head over to my Twitter for some more timely updates. We did say that you were likely to break our kind of more macro descending resistance after breaking out of this kind of descending triangle. We saw a beautiful break from that. We ran into this as resistance as set out. It's also a key level of resistance previously. And you're seeing a bit of rejection from it. We did break through it. We did say you were going to break through it, but you've now come back below it and you're kind of hovering around it. I would expect to see strength off the back end of this and continuation. Given what's around the corner for ADA, you know, it's undeniably going to lead to a positive effect on the price. FTSE saw an uptick. Seeing the FTSE coming really, really strong, but you are finding significant resistance here. Ultimately, I think there's a lot going on. I think in the UK, the whole kind of new variant and the situation that we're in is absolutely causing havoc. Whatever your opinion is on it, you know, what we're dealing with here is what I'm certainly dealing with and looking at it is I'm taking things as they come, in the sense that, got to be careful what I say here. I'm taking things as they come in the sense that, you know, the mainstream narrative does affect markets. So that's how I'm looking at it. Whether I think that what they're saying is truthful or not is a whole nother story. And it's, quite frankly, it's not something I'm here to debate on this channel. What I'm here to do is invest, look at the financial world around me and act accordingly. And of course, mainstream narrative has a huge sway on markets. And that's what I look at. And certainly when they say that things are getting pretty catastrophic in the UK, with, not catastrophic, but you know, things are ramping up with the new variant and we're seeing a record number of cases and so on, this undoubtedly will, certainly with the FTSE, which has so much travel and leisure in it, restrict certain elements of those industries, which of course has a downside effect on the price. So that's what we're doing. We're looking at a lot of things. These daily updates, guys, are something I look at every day, and I'm really just sharing it with you because I sort of look at the global financial playing field and then I'll equate that to the crypto space with its own variables and move on from there. So the S&P, strong. We did say that you were going to continue to see an uptick yesterday. You found your support perfectly off the CMA. EMAs aren't the be-all and end-all, but they do somewhat help and show relative strength and weakness. Supply chain crisis. This is interesting because this is what is getting blamed for a lot of the price hikes. It's not just that. There's a huge amount of inflation that's gone into the system, and this, of course, increases prices. So the dollar's seeing a little bit of slumpiness. I do think the dollar's going to continue. I think we're going to get to a point when the dollar and Bitcoin continue. But I don't think we're there yet. Now, this is Lynn Alden, and this is her talking about the fact that there's a lot of people in equities, a kind of record number, if you will. Could this be because people are wisening up to the fact that, you know, cash is trash and you should really hold something that hedges that? And certainly equities have proven that over time. A lot of the equities have proven that over time. And we're kind of in this realm where markets are too big to allow to fail. But this worries me slightly because typically when we see a lot of people into one thing, it signals that it's a little bit hot. You know, everybody can't be right, unfortunately, in this world. Whoever told you that life is fair, you know, and should be fair, we're always trying to overcompensate for the fact that life is, in many respects, certainly in the world of nature, quite brutal. And this is what you have to understand and really get to grips with as an investor. Markets do not care one bit about your feelings or anything like that, and you need to go with that mentality. So when we see a huge uptick in people getting into the stock market and so on and so forth, it's usually a little bit of cause for concern. But we're going to watch this. Ultimately, I think crypto's got a long way to go. I think they're going to hold this market up for as long as they can. This kind of red that we're seeing in the market, in my opinion, is nothing to worry about, and just how markets move. This was very, very interesting, this article, where it sort of suggests that we're moving away from the 4-year cycle theory, which of course is centered around the halvening, something I subscribe to. That is really all I have for you in the video, guys. I'm going to hit the gym, love and leave you, and I'll catch you all in the video later on today. Thank you very much for watching, guys.